Welcome in again. This is another edition of the WVSports.com video podcast, Musings from the Mountains. I'm managing editor Keenan Cummings.
I'm staff writer Patrick Kotnik.
You know what it's time for. It's time to preview a game, and boy, do we got a doozy. Oklahoma, very, very talented football team. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that. Undefeated on the season, number 5 nationally. Offense that is prolific, a defense that is much improved. West Virginia is on a 7-game losing streak to Oklahoma. 9-2 in the series overall. Last win was in the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma's dominated this series, Pat.
Yeah, they have, and you mentioned the team this year. Of course, this team really hasn't missed a beat with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. They're one of the tops in the nation in every major offensive category. And you mentioned their defense really improved as well. They're kind of more of a complete team than they were last year, I believe.
Somehow this team continues to get better after losing a first-round pick at quarterback. After Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, they averaged 8.6 yards per play last year, which was an NCAA record. Okay, he leaves, Jalen Hurts comes in. They're averaging 9.6 through 6 games. That's insane. 9.6 yards per play, 0.75 points per play for this Oklahoma offense. It's averaging over 50 points per game, over 600 yards per game. They're tops in the nation. Really, really scary offensive football team. This game's going to be on Fox. It'll be on at noon. But let's dive into it a little bit, Pat. We talked about the offense a little bit. What kind of stands out to you?
About Oklahoma's offense?
Yes.
Or I would say just Jalen Hurts, just his presence as a dual threat quarterback. He's like I mentioned, he's one of the top quarterbacks in the nation when it comes to passing yards, passing touchdowns. But he's also Oklahoma's leading rusher too. They have, like I said, they're more of a complete offense. They have, of course, a wide receiver threat in CeeDee Lamb, one of the top receivers in the country. They got a couple guys behind him as well who are capable of producing as a pass catcher as well. But as well as running back, they're deep at that running back position. They have 3 guys. Each of them have at least 35 carries on the season. Each of them have at least 300 yards. But believe it or not, it's Jalen Hurts that's been leading the way as far as the running game goes. I want to say around 74 carries, or somewhere in the 70 range as far as carries go. Has over 600 yards rushing this year, 8 touchdowns, I believe. Really just a true package when it comes to a quarterback. Now, he's made some questionable decisions, especially there was a couple turnovers for Oklahoma against Texas in the red zone. That would be a big key for the Sooners against West Virginia, is whether or not they can take care of the ball. If they can take care of the ball, I believe it will be a smooth sailing for Oklahoma. But if they do commit turnovers, it'll be up to West Virginia to capitalize, which is something that they've struggled to do. Yeah,
they're the only team in the nation right now with 19 rushing touchdowns and 19 passing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has been incredibly efficient. He has 12.8 yards per attempt on the season, and he's averaging I think he's around 72% completion, which is insane. That means he's throwing the football down the field, getting a lot of yak, and at the same time completing a high number of his passes. He has been a little shaky when you get pressure on him, like all quarterbacks have, but good luck trying to do that. This Oklahoma offensive line has played well. They've only allowed 5 sacks this year. So it's going to be a tough challenge for West Virginia. The thing about Hurts that I think makes him more dynamic, he understands football, he's efficient, gets the ball out, but he's such a threat scrambling. Around 77% of his yards come off scrambles. So it's hard to account for that. That's kind of plays that he makes himself. Patrick mentioned the running backs. They're deep there. They're averaging a bunch of yards per carry. All 3 guys are over 7 yards a carry on the season, which tells you that they're getting some big chunk plays in the run game. In the passing game with CeeDee Lamb, he has 28 catches for over 600 yards already this year. Of those 28 catches, 10 of them are touchdowns. That's pretty fantastic. And this is a football team that scores a lot of points, puts a lot of points up, and does some things offensively that's going to make it hard for West Virginia to defend. But it's actually, we let off with the offense, but we probably should have let off with the Oklahoma defense. That's where the biggest differences have been with this team.
Well, I think, too, with this Oklahoma offense, they've been so dominant, especially kind of early on. They get ahead. They force teams, to pick up the momentum to, throw the ball down the field. And that's why they're one of the top teams in the Big 12 when it comes to sacks. That's why you've seen them be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And I know the defense has struggled to force some turnovers against opposing offenses, but one of the top teams in the country, especially one of the top teams in the Big 12 when it comes to disrupting quarterbacks.
Yeah, the biggest turnaround, Alex Grinch came in, their new defensive coordinator. They were one of the worst teams in the nation defensively last year.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
I saw that shootout against West Virginia last season.
And that was pretty much weekly. I think they finished 101st 102nd last year, averaged over 33 points a game allowed. This year has been a completely different story. They're only giving up around 20 points per game. That's a massive shift with a lot of the same players coming back. So that tells you that the scheme's working. They're getting what they want out of their guys. And one of the biggest differences with this football team has been on third down. They were atrocious on third down last year, allowed about 46% to be converted. This year, that number is significantly lower, right around 27%. They're in the top 10 nationally in getting off the field. So that tells you that this is an Oklahoma football team. Of the past 3 years, with how good they've been offensively, this is by far their best defense, which makes for a really scary combination for a West Virginia team that's going to trot in with a bunch of freshmen playing. 21 different first-time starters this year for West Virginia. There's 13 freshmen in the two deep right now that are playing significant snaps. And you got questions at quarterback. You really don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. So any way you slice it, this is a tough challenge. Oklahoma's favored by, I think, 33.5.
I mean, I feel like if you're West Virginia, one of my keys to the game, if you're West Virginia, I kind of said to you before this, they almost have to do what the Giants did, led by Jeff Hostetler and Otis Anderson did in the Super Bowl against the Bills that one year. They're going to have to keep Jalen Hurts and the offense off the field, grind it out. I know the Giants in that game specifically, their time of possession, they held the ball for over 40 minutes. You got to do something similar. I feel like for West Virginia is to continue to grind out the clock. That's what they did. They were able to do that against Kansas, but West Virginia, we've seen in the past couple weeks, just unable to get the run game going. So that remains a major question mark as well.
Yeah, 9.6 yards per play. That's insane. That's bonkers. That's video game numbers type stuff. So we'll see what happens with West Virginia. But before we get into our prediction, which you can probably tell is pretty obvious at this point, we're going to jump straight into your questions.
You ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, first one. Got a good one here. Will they even bother to film this game?
Oh man, we're at this point already. It's 3-3, guys. Come on, this is a young team. I think that yes, they will, and I think that the definition here, or the point here for West Virginia is this is a football game that. Yeah, you're not favored. You're probably going to lose. But you come in, you try to win the football game, and you try to grow from it. That's what this game is going to be about. You got to get better. Neil Brown has said it all week already. The focus here is getting better. And that's what you want to see out of West Virginia. You know, I know people are a little bit down over the fourth quarters of the last two games, been outscored 38-14. But this is a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries, almost an unprecedented amount of turnover from the spring, and has been in the fourth quarter against two teams that are vying for that in the second spot besides Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship.
And I feel like in the long run, this could end up benefiting West Virginia. You're getting a lot of freshmen in there. They could have two true freshmen starting at the cornerback spots in Nick Troy Fortune, Tay Mayo. Of course, it all depends on Keith Washington's status. I know Hakeem Bailey, who was ejected during the Iowa State game for targeting in the second half, will have to sit out the first half against Oklahoma. But you could have two true freshmen. You still have some other freshmen playing safety. And you have Tyke Smith playing at Spear. You got Kerry Martin getting some time at safety. Really, I mean, with all these young players getting experience, I feel like this could benefit them especially when you're facing the fifth-ranked team in the country. But you mentioned Keenan. Past couple weeks they've been at striking distance against two pretty good teams, against a pretty darn good Texas team, and then
pretty good. See what I did there? Pretty good Iowa State team. I think what you take away from it is exactly what Patrick is saying. The best part about freshmen, guys, is they become sophomores, they become juniors, they become seniors, and they're getting significant snaps now. Yes, that might not play out positively on the win-loss column this year, but down the road, you can't make up for experience.
Now, I touched on this just a little bit ago. Next question here, will Keith Washington be able to play?
I think that's up in the air, is the best way to put it. I think he has a real chance this week. Last week, they kind of rolled him out in warm-ups, tried to fool people, but I don't think he was ever playing last week. I think this week he has more of a chance, has a muscle injury, according to Neil Brown. So I think it'll be interesting. If there is ever a game where you need him, it'd probably be this one. But good luck stopping Oklahoma's offense, regardless of who you throw out.
And if he's not full speed too, I mean, that was one of the reasons why he couldn't play last week. Is that he just wasn't at full speed. Like you said, they're going to be could have two true freshmen starting at the two cornerback spots, and it's not going to be easy going up against one of the top passing offenses in the country. Next question here on the offensive side of the ball: who is West Virginia's backup center?
I see what you did there. This has become a running joke on the Blue Lot. But if you want to know seriously, it is Adam Stilley. He is a former walk-on from Martinsburg. Not the biggest guy. He's around 6'1", but does his job. I think you could see him probably in some game action at some point. He's gotten for a few snaps already, but that's your backup center. Right now, they're trying to get what they can out of the starter, Bryson Mays. Been up and down as you would expect with a redshirt freshman that's probably playing a little bit earlier than he needs to, but it's about development. It goes back. That's the key word here, guys. If there's a key word for this week's show, it's development. Trust the climb.
And it's not easy to be in a situation like Bryson's, but like I said, this is valuable experience. He's getting made his fourth start, I believe, against Iowa State. But according to co-offensive coordinator, offensive line coach Matt Moore, I mean, he's doing the behind the scenes work right. I mean, he's studying hard, he's working hard, but he's still physically maturing. He's still not where he needs to be in terms of being a top center in the Big 12. But that's going to come later with more development, obviously more experience. Next question here, going back to the defensive side of the ball, will we see any new players backing up Quandarius Qualls at Bandit?
Yes and no. I think Zach Sandwich is your guy first, but they're going to have to get somebody. Losing Cowan is a bigger loss more for what it did for West Virginia from a depth perspective than it is for what really he had done on the field to date. The one thing that he allowed to do is they could sub Qualls out. We didn't have to play 65, 70 snaps. Now you're going to have to find a guy that can do that. I think down the road, Jared Bartlett's going to play. I asked Neil about this on Tuesday, and he said, yeah, he's a guy that they're going to try to work in. He has a natural body type for that. He's a guy that pushed for playing time really before getting an ankle injury that kind of sidelined him in camp. So he's an option there. They can always move other guys around, but in the intermediate, it's going to be back to putting a lot of weight on Quandarius Qualls' shoulders, I believe.
Now, going to recruiting, can you just snap your fingers and bring a top 10 recruiting class for the next 3 seasons?
Check the star list, full of 5-star guys, right?
What did you do?
No, I can't do that. I'm not Thanos. I don't have the Infinity Gauntlet. But what I can do is tell you that I do think that things are picking up there. I think West Virginia is going to put together a pretty good class. I really like the 13 guys they've got right now, but it's going to take time. That is one thing that I think you even realize this in the offseason with that trust the climb mantra. This is going to take some time. West Virginia's lost a lot of scholarship players that should probably still be on this football team. Even in the spring, you've lost Marcus Sims, you've lost Jareed Pitts, Kenny Robinson, Matt Jones, David Long went pro, all guys with eligibility, and then you throw on top some of these redshirt decisions like Martell Pettaway, even though he'll be back next year, Giovanni Stewart. A lot of guys are gone now, and a lot of guys are hurt too, which that's football. Guys are going to get hurt, but it comes with development. There's that word again. There's that key word. I do think West Virginia is going to have a really, really good 2021 class. I think they finished with some good guys in 2022. Top 10, probably not. I would expect a good class for West Virginia, I usually say, is between 30, 35. That's a pretty good class.
Well, that was the second part of that question was, what is the standard for W classes?
Yeah, I think 30, 35. You're looking pretty good with West Virginia, and then it becomes developing those guys. This is a program that's never really been able to lure top guys in, but what they have done a really good job of, and West Virginia's had a good football team, is develop them. And I think that you're going to see that with this staff. You're already kind of seeing it with this staff with some of the young freshmen and what they're getting out of them. And now it's about getting better players. The mantra is, we're going to over-recruit you. That's what West Virginia's trying to do. They're trying to find guys that are better than what they have right now and build it over time.
And you'll see that at the bandit spot too, when they get more guys that fit what they want at that bandit spot. That's definitely going to be something I'm looking for moving forward when it comes to recruiting. Last question here, almost pretty much unrelated to the Oklahoma game. What is it that prevents WVU football from falling into the abyss like Tennessee and Nebraska? Where did those programs go wrong?
Tennessee, when will it ever work for them? I think it starts at the top. I don't think that Nebraska is a situation that isn't going to clear up. I think Scott Frost's a pretty good coach, and I think the same thing about Neil Brown. The guy has a proven track record of building programs. I think that's your biggest difference, him and this coaching staff. They've gotten this team to fight and scrap already, and they could easily quit at times. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they come out against Oklahoma. I think that this team comes out and plays some pretty good football. Once again, is that going to relate to the scoreboard? Maybe not. Maybe at the end of the game, you look at the score and you say, But if you watch the game, are they getting better? Are they showing improvement? And that's what they're building towards. Everybody knew coming into this season that this October schedule was going to be a gauntlet. Yeah, even more so when you consider Baylor's also undefeated, which no one probably expected that. So you got 4 of the top 4 big teams in the Big 12 on your schedule. It's difficult. It does ease up in November, and how this team closes, I think, will define it. But I do have faith in Neil Brown. I think he's a good coach. I think he has a proven track record, and I do think he turns the ship around.
I agree with you, Keenan. I really do think he turns this program around as well. But like you mentioned, I feel like this is a great opportunity for just to see where they're at, against some of those top teams. I mean, I've said we see them in striking distance against a really good Texas team, a pretty decent Iowa State team. But how do they come out against Oklahoma? But I mean, I feel like you're already seeing improvement though. Throughout the whole season, you're seeing these coaches be able to make pretty good adjustments. You're seeing those players execute some of those adjustments, but you're seeing them not go down without a fight. I feel like that's something that you've seen in years past. Is that when it collapses, it's bad. But you're still seeing them put up a fight and still put in the maximum effort as well.
And I think it was telling this week how Neil addressed that. They're not giving up. They're not quitting.
They're not down and out.
Yeah, they're not down and out at this point. And the difference between a good team and a bad team is being able to take advantage and finish in critical situations. And right now, West Virginia has not been able to do that the last 2 games. Had they been able to do that, we might be singing a whole different tune at this point. Heading
especially against Texas.
Yeah. So
it's all for questions.
Wow, that went quickly. Prediction time. Shockingly, I'm going to take Oklahoma. I think that this is just too much for West Virginia. I think this would have been a difficult matchup had West Virginia been completely healthy and had everybody that has been Thanos snapped off the roster. This is going to be a difficult game for West Virginia for the simple fact that Oklahoma just doesn't lose at home, first of all. They're one of the best teams in the country at home. They're one of the more balanced teams in the nation right now. We've already gone through all the reasons why I think they're a good football team. Can they be beat? Absolutely. Will it happen this weekend? I don't think it will.
I'm taking Oklahoma by a score of 48-24. I mean, like you said, Keenan, I just feel like there's just too much firepower with this Oklahoma offense and with this improved defense, and also throw in there that they're playing at home. I mean, I just feel like it's going to be too much for West Virginia. It'll be a great test for the Mountaineers, like I just mentioned earlier, but I really feel like Oklahoma there's just no way. I mean, especially considering the fact that West Virginia has yet to beat Oklahoma since joining the Big 12. So I mean, at this point, I got to see it to believe it, and Oklahoma's just too talented of a team, so I'm taking the Sooners.
Somehow every year they just reload in a way that is Kansas-like on the basketball side. But that's where West Virginia finds itself. If they want to be at the top of this conference, you got to find a way to win this game at some point, and that did not happen under Dana Holgorsen. We'll see if it can under Neil Brown here moving forward. But welcome. Again, we appreciate you watching our show. If you haven't already, this first time watching, hit subscribe. We do this multiple times a week. We like to have fun with it. We'll take your questions and get into some recruiting stuff too. Did want to mention one thing before we get off here, though, on the basketball side. Big 12 preseason poll was out. West Virginia was picked 5th. Patrick, your thoughts?
I think it's fair. That's about right.
I'm a little surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
Think it'd be higher or lower?
Lower, and not because I feel that way, just for the fact that this was a team that was really bad last year. Set the record for losses at West Virginia.
Well, we remember last year they were picked 3rd, and look what.
Well, they were supposed to be good.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand that, but I think at this point, I think they're kind of put in a position where obviously they have to prove. I mean, there's a lot of promise with this team this year, but obviously they got to the results got to show.
Promise does not win you games. Remember that. But I do feel like that it is going to be a better team. That's where I see them. Don't get me wrong. That's where I actually see them at maybe even higher by the end of the year. I do feel like this is going to be a good basketball team, but I'm just surprised the coaches felt that way. I think that's a lot of respect for Bob Huggins and some of those young players that are developing. But thanks for tuning in once again. This has been another fun edition of Musings from the Mountains.